Arianna Huffington, journalist, author, co-founder of the Huffington Post, founder of Thrive Global, single mother of 2 girls. That alone is exhausting. And I think a lot of people probably don't know that you were a candidate for the California governor. Did you always have political aspirations?
Not always. I always wanted to be a journalist. My father was a journalist. So that was my passion. But I've always been incredibly interested in politics as a way to reduce suffering in the world. And interestingly enough, there are many avenues to do that. You know, journalism is one, by putting the spotlight on all the problems. Right. Politics is another, by being able to find solutions and implement them. And what we're doing now with Thrive Global is a third, because I really believe, as you and I were talking about before we started, that there's a lot of unnecessary suffering in the world based on the delusion that in order to succeed, you have to burn out. And it's a complete illusion. All the modern science and all data that we have disproves it, but we still have not changed the culture enough for people to realize that they damage their health, their relationships, and their performance because they think they can't afford to take time to unplug, recharge, etc.
But yet we're in a society that says if you're not working 24/7, you're missing something.
Exactly.
Or you're not successful, or you're not an entrepreneur. How do you respond to that?
Well, you respond to that by looking at the data and looking at stories. So Thrive Global is 2 things. One is we bring together all the latest science about the connection between well-being and performance on our media platform. And also we bring together new role models, as we call them, super successful people in the arena who are not living by the delusion that they have to burn out to succeed. For example, Jeff Bezos wrote a piece for us, and the headline was, "Why am I getting 8 hours of sleep is good for Amazon shareholders?" And he analyzed his decision making. And that's what we forget. It's not just our health that is impaired when we don't take time to recharge. It's our decision making. Yeah. When our cognitive performance is impaired, when we don't have enough sleep, our decisions are not going to be so good. And as Jeff Bezos said, the future of Amazon depends on the quality of his decisions. And we can all kind of look back at times when we're exhausted and evaluate the decisions we made. I think every hiring mistake I made when I was tired.
Really? But now you had a moment where you hit complete burnout. This is while you were running the Huffington Post?
Yes. 2 years into building the Huffington Post, the mother of 2 single mother of 2 teenage daughters, I literally collapsed, hit my head on my desk, broke my cheekbone, and came to in a pool of blood. And, when you come to in a pool of blood and nobody has shot you, you have to ask yourself the question, is this what success looks like? And that was really for me.
And you were alone. You woke up alone in this pool of blood.
It was, I was at my desk. Okay. I was in my office. My assistant was upstairs. And so it was fine. My assistant heard the thud.
Oh, my God.
And found me. But it was an amazing wake-up call because it changed my life. I fortunately took it to heart and changed the way I worked and lived. And what was amazing is that it actually made me more productive. I mean, if you look at my Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, you know that it's not about slowing down. I haven't slowed down. I just take the time to recharge. And that's what makes the difference. I'm not doing less, but what I'm doing is more effective and more productive.
It's a movement, isn't it? I even feel like corporate America is changing too, right? It's becoming more socially responsible. It's starting to care. We went from all these years of just not giving a damn, making money, who cares how you made it? And now all of a sudden, people are starting to reflect a little.
Absolutely. There are huge changes. And the other part of Thrive Global, my new company, is all about working with companies to help them improve their culture and create a thriving culture. So one part is the media platform, the other part is the B2B. And we've worked with great companies like Accenture, JP Morgan, the Hilton hotels, and there is a new listening and a new awareness that when you improve the well-being of your employees, your bottom line improves. You affect every business metric. You affect attrition because when employees are burnt out, there is an over 30% greater chance they would change jobs. You affect performance and engagement because exhausted employees are disengaged. And you obviously reduce healthcare costs because you catch the stress triggers before they become symptoms.
That's a huge expense right there.
Exactly.
To address that is huge. Diversity and inclusion are also a big movement these days. That's all part of this, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Because, you know, we've been trying for years to improve the numbers around women at the top, and we haven't succeeded really. And I think the real reason is that while workplaces continue to be fueled by stress and burnout, women are going to have a hard time fitting in.
Yeah.
Because women in stressful jobs have a 40% greater risk of heart disease and a 60% greater risk of diabetes because we internalize stress more than men do.
Sure.
And so we need to reduce the stress and burnout that is now absolutely inherent in workplaces.
Well, especially, too, you cut out 50% of the workforce if you don't address women.
Absolutely.
Speaking on that, first of all, you wrote this book back in 1973 called The Female Woman, which still holds today. It's kind of amazing with the whole Me Too movement and everything. You were talking about this back then.
Yes, well, when I wrote The Female Woman, it was a very different world, you know, really. There was a strand of what was then called the women's liberation movement that really believed that women who chose to be mothers were just victims of social conditioning. You know, it was a very different world. And all I said during the writing of that book was that women should be given equal respect for any choice they make. And I believe that profoundly now. If you choose to be primarily a mother, great, that's your choice. If you choose to just have a fantastic career and rise to the top, that's your choice. Societies should be there to support whatever decision women make. Mm-hmm. And so the world has changed dramatically now. And we see that to make it possible for women to have the careers they want and to have an environment at work which is totally empowering them, we do need to address burnout and stress because we've seen in so many companies, including at Uber, over the last year since I'm on the board, you know, I saw that firsthand, that when employees are burnt out, they act out. Mm-hmm. And we can see that from our own lives. I know that when I'm exhausted, I'm the least good version of myself.
Yes, agreed.
You know, I'm more reactive, I'm less empathetic, I'm less creative.
Right.
So just imagine that writ large across an entire organization. Imagine the impact it has on women.
Especially because we shoulder so much at home.
Exactly.
It's just inevitable.
Yeah, despite everything we've been saying about men sharing household duties, men sharing child rearing duties, the amount of men who are really equally involved is small, and the amount of men who are stay-at-home dads is even smaller.
Great. How do we get more women on boards then? Is it because we have to change the entire culture of the organization? The
fastest way to get more women on the board right now is to get the first woman on the board. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what happened to me. I was the first woman on the board of Uber, and one of the first things I did was present to the board a second woman to join the board, and that's exactly what happened. Wan Ling Martello, mm-hmm. who is the CEO of Nestle Asia, joined our board, and now we have a third woman on the board, Ursula Burns. So I think starting with one woman on the board is the first step, and then making sure that woman prioritizes not being the first woman,
right.
Not being the only woman on the board.
You know, because many women will say, I don't want to be chosen just because I'm a woman. Okay, that's fine, but we should be in the pool. women should be in the pool of candidates. And I think that's sometimes even what's missing. Fellow board members, men, go to the golf course or wherever they go and they find more men, and it keeps repeating itself. It has to stop.
Absolutely. Making sure that among the candidates considered, there are always women. Ideally as many women as men,
right,
will make a big difference.
This is your most recent book, The Sleep Revolution. Sleep seems to be like one of the most important things to you.
Well, it's one of the most important things to a whole culture now. The world has changed dramatically. Articles about the importance of sleep are now in the Wall Street Journal and The Economist and the Business Insider, while before they used to be just in health magazines. Now the business world has woken up to the connection between sleep and decision making and the cognitive performance that is affected by sleep deprivation. And the science is so clear. There is about 1 to 1.5% of the population that has a genetic mutation, and they don't need a lot of sleep.
Interesting.
And there is a genetic test you can take if you're not sure, although I am sure I need 8 hours.
I'm definitely sure I need more sleep.
Exactly. So those of us who don't have the genetic mutation need between 7 and 9 hours. Where you are in that spectrum is individual. I'm an 8-hour girl. And now I prioritize it, and it's changed my life. And the key we recommend at Thrive is making a transition to sleep. Because a lot of people say, I can't stay asleep. I go to sleep and I wake up. And the reason for that is that they have not taken the time to transition. They haven't taken the time to slow down their brains. And for us, that starts with the micro step of turning off your phone and charging it outside your bedroom. That is key, because your phone is the repository of every problem, every project, everything you have. So
it lights up in the middle of the night when you get a text, and it wakes you up.
Oh no, that's actually a truly insane way of trying to sleep and recharge. But that's why you created the app too, right?
Yeah,
we created an app called the Thrive app that you put your phone in Thrive mode when you want to have a meal with your children and not be distracted or do deep work. And then if I text you, I'll get a text back that you're in Thrive mode and when you'll be out of it. So it's bi-directional. And the idea is to create a different cultural norm that we value, the norm of disconnecting. And the second thing is that it gives you a dashboard of your app usage. So you can see how much time you're spending on your apps, on Candy Crush, on Netflix, on whatever it is that you're most addicted to, and then it empowers you to make changes.
But whose responsibility? I mean, I guess we all have to take responsibility, right? But you'll get an email from your boss at 8 o'clock at night. How do you walk away from it? So many people will feel obligated to answer that email at 8 o'clock at night.
Well, I think it's very important for companies to create ground rules. And the ground rule we have here is you're not expected to answer emails after hours or over the weekend. If there is something urgent, we'll call you, we'll find you. But the vast majority of time, this is your time to recharge. But the truth is that's not enough. You may have these rules at work, but if you go home and lose yourself on Instagram or Candy Crush, you're still going to come to work exhausted. That's why we don't call it work-life balance. It's more like tech-life balance.
It's amazing how we got here, right?
Yes.
It's only a few years, and it took over our lives.
Absolutely, and here we are.
And here we are. Well, thank God for what you're doing then. Before I let you go, if I could just ask you, what do you hope for your daughters in the future? Do you have any kind of aspirations for them, for this world?
Yes, I hope that my daughters will live their lives without this delusion that in order to succeed, you have to burn out. And definitely, I'm very happy to say they have been internalizing a lot of the things I've been writing and saying. So they're actually believers and practitioners.
That's amazing.
Which is a great gift. And I feel that, life is unpredictable. anything can happen. Life is fragile. I was just telling you that my daughter was hit by a bike and is suffering from concussion now. So you don't know what's going to happen. We need to improve and increase our own resilience so that we can deal with whatever life brings us. And when we're burnt out, we're much less resilient. When we don't take care of ourselves on average days, we're less able to deal with the unexpected challenges that inevitably life will throw our way.
It's so true. Did you have a female role model in your life?
Oh, my biggest female role model was my mom. I was very lucky that she taught me from early on that failure is not the opposite of success, as she put it. It's a stepping stone to success. And so she made it easier for me to take risks and to be comfortable with the possibility of failing.